Good morning, everyone. I just came in from Switzerland, so I'm happy to talk faster today in my hometown. So Stefan already mentioned, you see behind the classical picture that you know when you come to London Tube, you see that on the floor and it says, mind the gap. And I was with a team of executives, we were in London, we had a training, and we were discussing the topic, why don't people, when they know that our products are so great, why don't they buy them? And I said to them, guys, do you think just because they know they will do what they think? Of course they know that we are great. We talked to them many times. It needs to be in our books. And I was taking the tune back to my hotel and I looked at it and said, they didn't get it. There's a gap between knowledge and behavior. And we tend to forget that in many cases. When we're working with executives, one of the biggest misunderstandings, I'm sorry guys, I'm from marketing, you know, these are the guys that don't all the bullshit, yeah? So put me in that corner if you want to. Maybe you take me out, because my message is, if you don't take care of the gap between knowledge and behavior by yourself, nobody else will do it. So this is the task that we have. Let me give you an example that I saw some months ago in the newspaper. I don't know if this was the reason that he was fired, but from my point of view, this is the biggest gap that we have with the executives. They believe their products and their ideas are so great, people will come. When we believe ecology is so important, people will come. They don't, for many reasons. And when you look into the idea of the knowledge and behavior gap, you find different explanations. There are papers around on that topic over and over again. And the idea is always the same. We know what is good, we know what is a good product, what is a good idea, but we don't behave like that. When you look into literature and you start out with the classical communication issues that we have, then you find papers that are saying, there is a way to close that gap between knowledge and behavior. And it's building knowledge, and then you show the behavior. And a lot of executives come up to us and say, there's that old formula that we learned at the university. It's the AIDA formula. And everybody says, if you've got the attention of your customers, of your shareholders, if the interest is there, they will build a desire and they will show actions. Attention, interest, desire, action. You know where that comes from? From menu cards from restaurants from 150 years ago. This works at that case. If you're hungry, you go to a vegan restaurant, you pick something vegan. The choice that you did choose vegan before has a wholly different root. It's not based on the motivation. The motivation is kicked off to choose something out of the menu. And this is what you can steer to behavior between get them to know the menu, read the menu, choose the menu, eat from the menu. Period. It doesn't work further. The more the gaps in the steps of the customer journeys get aligned, you don't get customers anymore to do what you say them if you don't help them to do it. And the problem is, the relation could be the different way. It could be you need behavior to buy products. I know this is the worst thing that you could think of. That's the impulse purchase. A whole industry is living by choosing something and afterwards say, okay, it was not that bad. I could eat it again. Do you have ever heard somebody that was informed before that there's calories in there and you shouldn't be eating it? You do it because you first do the choice and then you build your own behavior on that basis. So how is it, how we should describe this relationship? And when you look back into the profession of communication, then you find a very long life experience by David Ogilvy, who was saying, customers don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't know what they say. And from the experience that we have in market research when we talk to companies, okay, let me give you one example. The fight between the marketing people and the sales people in BMW for the Mini was very simple. The Mini people said, the brand people said, we build a brand, so the people will come. Sales guys in retail said, okay, when will they come? We don't see them. Can you tell us where they come? We're building a brand, they will come. But nobody came because you didn't get the call to action to get the customer to the floor. If you don't think of that gap, you're building one of the biggest mistakes that I can think when we talk about new behavior. So what can we do to build that gap, to bridge that gap? And you saw that already. Relevance. And I think relevance still is one of the best ways to do it. You already saw the logo behind it. It's Nike. But if you think about what is the real way of people to get them interested in what you're doing is, when you're relevant, it works all the time. So I stumbled across last week this photograph a friend of mine sent from Singapore, Orchard Road, Apple Store. People still queue up for getting the iPhone 11. Somewhat it might be relevant for them. Somewhat it might be something that they are looking for. I don't get it, but some people do. I just ordered by phone, but no. The idea behind it is, this is what many companies believe that they can deliver. They are so interesting, people will queue up for their products. Yes, with Apple, with a net promoter score of 99%, 95%, which is a high customer satisfaction rate. They achieve this. Others have problems. Because when you look into surveys, people don't buy the brands anymore. They're not relevant. And getting a brand relevant nowadays needs guts, needs purpose. And this is what Nike did 1 year ago. With Kaepernick and the main campaign for the NFL, they were showing that this position that they took blasted off a lot of customers in the flyover USA, so to say, and they were burning the shoes, but on the other hand, sales went up 30%. Approval rate for the brand went up 20%. Liking for the brand went up 20% because they took a stand. They built a purpose. We are hiring, honoring great athletes. Doesn't matter if they work or not. Problem is, others fail in doing the same stuff. They get high discussions. Think of Gillette. They tried to do that purpose stuff and really failed on that because they put it in a wholly different discussion. That's a long story, and this is the great failure that many companies have. You can't greenwash yourself just by taking Kermit into your advertisement and saying, no, we're good for the ecology. So relevance is important, but for many companies, a great struggle. What else can we do? There's another way that we look at it, and we call it proximity. And proximity is something that relates to the idea, the closer you get to the customer with your physical evidence, the closer you get to the choice of the customer, the more you've got the chance that he will purchase your products. This is what companies are struggling with when we hear that word of omni-channel mumbo-jumbo, I call it always. Because the idea behind it is, be everywhere where your customer has a touch point. The problem with that is, as nice as the idea is, and as nice companies do that, this is our hallmark example for customer-centric corporations. It's a Hilti corporation from Schaan in Liechtenstein. They are perfectly in their channels because they don't serve only the construction site, they serve the construction site worker. When he needs a drill, he can drop by and buy it in a shop. He can order it online and he will send it via email. And they are so close that they can charge 30% higher than any other construction tool company in the world, based on their customer-centric understanding. Most companies look at omni-channel management like this because they don't get them coordinated, because they fall into something, what we call the 3E trap, selling everything to everybody, everywhere. And this is exactly what doesn't work. So if relevance is challenging, proximity is challenging as well. And now you all know that there's a third way of doing it. And this is when you talk about knowledge and behavior gap, everybody says, well, let's nudge them to the right decision. Yeah? And nudging in the perspective that we are using it is not the governmental style of saying we need to induce certain behavior by law. We look at it as an idea of moving customers stepwise in their journey from step to step to step. I need to watch out that I don't fall down. To step by step by step. Take the little pieces, nudge them into the next direction. Very briefly, very shortly, with little incentives. The problem is, this is how companies think. They think in the funnel. And the funnel is nothing else than a great idea of marketing controlling and performance measurement, guys, that says, if you follow up on those KPIs, you're doing your job, that's fine. When you look at customers, how they behave, they do it differently. They don't want, I'm right now in awareness, can you take me to choice? I want to buy it, can you take me to buy? It's non-linear. Maybe you know Eric Joachimsthaler from Prof. He always says, customers are flying around like bumblebees. You don't get them in the right moment. You want to see a flight of a bumblebee? A colleague of mine at ETH is researching that. That's a flight of a bumblebee. Shall I show you how customers behave like bumblebees? This is out of a project we did last year. They take circuits in search. You need to nudge them out of the Google search into the store. You need to help them that they find the right place. You need to help them to do the right decision. And the problem is then you've got target groups that are 7 times online, only go 1 time to the store. And then you've got others that are 1 time online and go 7 times to the store. There is no easy way of nudging people to the next step. But the point is that I want to make with that is, when you get the formula, there are 3 ways we can't leave out one. We cannot just concentrate on building the relevant brand. We cannot. Die Schwangere Auster ruft, no? Okay. We need to build on all 3. But we can start differently to close that gap. And the first one, for me, is always the classic one. Build your relevance. Build brands. Still is some of the best ways that you can do it. If you've got the full pockets, if you can be relevant, if you have a purpose, then you're one of the companies that can really deliver on that. But be aware, if you want to become relevant and you don't have a purpose, you're right in the middle of the mist in any social media, because everybody will make fun of you because you're not delivering on what you're saying. And you will be watched so carefully that the idea of going from relevance to proximity to nudging is something that is relevant for companies like Nike, as I said. You can even drill it down to Coca-Cola that are doing that perfectly well, and get their behavior of their customers in the direction that they need. The second way is, and this is what you see with an example, we call it always nudge them to usage. This is a washing service. It's a startup in Switzerland that we were working with our students with. And what they started out with was very simple. They put all the little budget that they had for their service into search engine marketing. They created frequency. Over the usage and the frequency that they got out of search engine marketing, they had conversion on their website. They had their first orders for the subscription service. With the orders for the subscription service, customers had the experience. So you could nudge them with the next discount to the next purchase, onwards and onwards and onwards. And they're still small, but they have a growth rate which is not really exponential, but they're growing pretty well in the big cities of Switzerland as a service that nobody has known before. So that's a different way. If you're not known, maybe you try that around nudging. And the third one, so it's relevance, starting out with nudging, proximity, then relevance. The next one, I know, some will say, why didn't you take N26? Has a very simple reason. I'm with Revolut, and I went just to the whole experience that they're giving me without any breach of emails. And Revolut is starting, according to what they are telling us, is starting out and saying, you can't get around us. You will jump into Revolut. When you come to St. Gallen University and you don't have a Revolut card, you're not a student of St. Gallen. So they're as far in taking you there on the basis of being there. And from then onwards, when you just signed and showed interest for one time on their webpage, you will never get out of their engagement circle. Because what they do to you is they push you forward with every kind of email. Hey, Marcus, we saw you haven't been using the card for 5 days. Here's a discount. And then they push you forward and forward and forward and forward. So the argument that I'm trying to deliver to you in the brief amount of time is that we are saying, if you want to be successful in bridging that gap between knowledge and behavior, be aware it's your task. Nobody else can deliver that. Waiting for somebody that helps you to get the customer going or your community going is the wrong way. You need to take care of that. And by the way, what you saw in classical marketing function, this was just communication. This is the whole company that needs to move in that direction. And this is what makes customer centricity so challenging. Even if it is just about showing behavior, it's very important to take care of that. Okay, so I hope I added up to your morning energizer. And thank you very much for your attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus. So we have questions that come in from the audience. So let's start with the first one. How can brands be relevant more or become relevant if the only thing they know how to talk about is their product? So is it like, because it seems the examples you gave, sometimes the relevance is something bigger. Yeah. It's not like my product is so great, it's sweet and you can eat it and it helps you when it comes to hunger. And lots of companies, that I saw know, what they really know well is to describe their product in detail. Seems that a lot of this is not relevant to people.
So the best way is you've got a unique product that serves a superior benefit. That's the best idea that you could have. Still, it's one of the best things that you could do. The worst thing is you ain't got a product that's really serving the customer. Then you're not even going to make it with anything like relevance. Relevance, on the other hand, if you translate it into purpose,
right,
then it's the question if the company can stand in for certain values. The problem then is that you need to
authentic.
deliver.
And be authentic.
Yeah, and then you need to deliver on every touch point and every customer interaction.
Yeah, and that's a process maybe.
Yeah.
And where do you see the industry, like, let's look at the second question, cultural differences, and let's make it easy. Switzerland, EU, how important are cultural differences when it comes to customers? Only within EU?
Yeah, I mean, there are cultural differences, no doubt about that. They're even big between somebody who's here from Switzerland. Not only
Probably
me.
yes.
Maybe one idea to that. The Swiss are ecological conscious because one company took the stand of it 25 years ago. That was the Co-op. They introduced sustainable products because on behalf of their communitarian background, they started out of doing sustainable projects and products. Migros joined in with a product range called Aus der Region für die Region. So the offers were already there. I saw the first soy steak 25 years ago when I came to Switzerland from Berlin. I said, you can do a steak out of soy. It tasted horrible, but people were buying it because they had the offers and they were accessible to that. So that would be the major reason for me. If there's an offer that goes into that direction and it meets the relevant need, then you're better off than just waiting for customers to say, I want to have a soy steak.
Right, and that's also even regional, difference that you had 20 years ago already.
I would say this is a chance for regional stuff.
Right.
It's a chance for regional brands and for regional communities to push more into that direction. If you go to San Francisco, there's a jeans brand which is communicating, I'm from the region. I clear the water for the community here internally. We are doing the denims here in the streets. So we're closer to you than anybody else. This is more relevant than anything else. That's a purpose for a community. So there are a lot of chances in there, not only for the large-scale companies, but for the small and medium-sized and the startups.
Maybe we take one more.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to pick? You mentioned that consumers stop buying brands.
I didn't say that they stopped buying brands. I said that 60% of customers disagree on saying, I buy the brands that I would prefer. It's very simple because they make no difference. If you ain't got a difference that you're making, if you don't have a value proposition, why should they buy you? You saw the brands beneath. That's Aldi, Lidl, Penny. You're in Germany, the society of discount.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
Philip Kotler once said, if you don't make a difference, then you're a commodity, and then the only thing that counts is the price. So take yourself care of how to differentiate yourself.
Okay, so the very, very last, what differentiates companies that really live their values and that just talk about them? What makes them different? Companies that live their values. Probably they're successful, right?
Yeah, and we discussed this yesterday with my students and some executives. They hire the people that are looking for a purpose, that want to buy into the purpose and not want to buy into just being at P&G and stuff like that, which is just one thing. So.
Yeah. Okay, there's more question coming in.
I'm here.
Are you here?
Yeah, sure.
So Marcus is here. Approach him, at the end of the day. Thanks for coming and kicking off. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you.